When you think of the Bigfoot's natural habitat, you typically think of the Pacific Northwest. But the video we're about to show you suggests the big fella may have a Midwestern cousin prowling the forests of the Buckeye State. January 12th, 2020, we're in Salt Fork State Park, Ohio. Hiker Nathan Gray and a friend are armed with cameras and drones to document their trek through the woods when they make a startling discovery: the rib cages of several large animals nestled amongst the foliage.
Looks like they're ripped apart pretty good.
The duo continues to explore the area when suddenly they spot this: a creature, large and humanoid, walking through the trees unbothered by or unaware of their presence. Nathan manages to get his camera even closer for a better look. Zooming in, we can see the creature appears to be covered in some type of hair or fur, with lighter, almost white hair around the top of the head.
We had no idea what it was. It was just moseying on along, like it didn't have a care in the world.
Field researcher Cliff Barrickman is not at all surprised about where this footage was filmed.
Tons of Bigfoot reports come out of this particular area. Southeastern Ohio, in the area of Salt Fork State Park, is a thick, wooded wilderness. The Appalachian Mountains are no joke, and Ohio is pushed right up against them. Anything out of Southeast Ohio should be looked at very, very closely.
However, in this particular region of the U.S., the locals don't use the name Bigfoot. They call it the Ohio Grassman, based on the large dens it supposedly makes of grass and from its diet, which reportedly consists mainly of tall grass from Ohio fields.
It's the Ohio Grassman.
One of the most infamous sightings was in 1978 when a local family claimed to be haunted by a grassman that was later nicknamed the Minerva Monster.
These people reported large, scary monsters. They would actually stalk them in their home. The family that was reporting these sightings believed that the Sasquatch killed their German Shepherd by snapping its neck. The police themselves came to the conclusion that this was in fact a credible report of something incredible happening.
That sort of violent behavior may explain the bones Nathan and his friend found in the woods. And while it doesn't explain the Grassman sightings from decades ago, Barrickman says there may be another possible explanation for what's in Nathan's video from 2020.
One other theory that's been put forth is that these animals are just normal animals that are being misidentified after the Zanesville massacre.
In 2011, an exotic animal collector released 50 animals into the Ohio woods, including Bengal tigers, lions, cougars, and even a baboon.
But one of the animals that was not killed is a baby grizzly bear. Could this animal here be a survivor of the Zanesville massacre?
The chaos in Zanesville was a catalyst for Ohio's exotic animal ownership laws that went into effect in 2014, which shut down any other potential tiger kings. So is what we're seeing in the video a grizzly, a grassman, or something else? Our experts are tracking the evidence. Wildlife biologist Stephanie Manka dismisses the idea this could be a surviving grizzly.
If this really were a grizzly bear, we would expect to have more reports, fecal samples, bear claw marks, some evidence that a bear is living in that area. And this scene looks really consistent with a human in a costume.
Let's focus on this thing's arms for a moment. Note that all apes have arms longer than their legs, enabling better quadruped movement and efficient brachiation, the ability to swing between trees. But according to anthropologist and Sasquatch expert Jeff Meldrum, we're not seeing anything like that here.
You can see the upper limb is barely to the crotch. That suggests human limb proportions. And the head is kind of large, more like a hood. It looks to me like someone in camo gear with a hoodie and insulated pants and heavy boots on.
Our verdict? It's a hoax. Though you have to give the guys credit for planting those animal bones. Nice try, fellas. December 2017, Whitsett, British Columbia, Canada. It's a snowy, overcast day in this remote village. Upon hearing something eerie in the woods behind his home, a man pulls out his camera and records this. Take another listen. It's a guttural howl emanating from the forest. The witness pans the camera around, trying to find where exactly it's coming from. Field researcher Cliff Barrickman draws a comparison with these noises and the famous Sierra sounds recorded in Northern California in the 70s.
The Sierra sounds are singularly important in the study of Sasquatches. The sounds represent a wide variety of very strange vocalizations that were emitted from unseen entities in the woods. It sounds like people actually speaking an unknown language.
Important to note, whatever made the Sierra sounds has never been identified. As with the recent sounds in British Columbia, Barrickman thinks they could be the sounds of Sasquatch communicating.
We believe that Sasquatches are probably moving about in kind of loose groups.
Even if they move in small groups like gorillas do, Barrickman says they often spread out.
So, in the kind of habitat they like to live in, they wouldn't be able to see the other individuals in their family groups. They would have to call for them, whether it's mating or socialization or feeding or whatever.
However, some wonder if these sounds could be connected to another recent horror story from the region. Between 2007 and 2019 in the nearby Salish Sea, 20 disembodied human feet encased in shoes and sneakers washed up onto the shore. Some suggest that this could be evidence of a killer Sasquatch, while others think this could be a serial killer running amok. Is this a deranged human screaming in the wild?
Canada is a vast, wild wilderness. Could a serial killer be loose in the woods of Canada? It's possible.
The Harrison River Valley, located to the southwest of British Columbia, is home to the indigenous nation known as the Chehalis. They consider the Sasquatch a sacred caretaker of the land. They even use him as a totem of their nation. Let's see what our experts think about this Canadian creature. Biologist Floyd Hayes fills us in on what we would normally find or hear lurking in these woods.
There are many species of animals that communicate by vocalizing. In general, the sounds are somewhat correlated with the body size of the animal, with larger animals producing louder sounds. The British Columbia wolf is a subspecies of the gray wolf, and it lives in this area and it grows rather large. It makes very loud howling sounds.
That leads us to forensic audio analyst Dr. Rob Maher, who first compares this audio to that of a large wolf.
So we can compare the sound of a wolf So this is a spectrogram of the wolf howl. If we look at the Whitset howl sound, we see more high-frequency information, and the contour is different than the wolf.
So no exact match for the local fauna. But what about a Bigfoot? Maher brings up the famous Sierra sounds for comparison.
The Bigfoot recording has more energy in the lower frequency range, and it's more of a whoop rather than a shriek sound. They seem to be two distinctive types of sounds.
So no Bigfoot. But what about the idea that the sounds are connected to some disturbed serial killer haunting the Canadian woods? Maher says no.
Trying to make the sounds that are up in the higher range up here in several thousand hertz, I'm a little skeptical that a human could make that sound.
So what could be making this horrific noise? Turns out, maybe nothing. Or nothing real, at least.
In the spectrogram, we can see these vertical dark areas where the sound disappears during the recording. One of the reasons you might have these dropouts would be that the audio had been edited or changed. It raises a lot of questions about the integrity of that recording and whether it's really authentic.
Our verdict? With no exact audio matches and some questionable evidence about the recording, we're going with potential hoax. And while we didn't find a Bigfoot this time, British Columbia's forests cover an area of 149 million acres, the size of France and Germany combined. So there's plenty left to explore. Hickory, North Carolina, August 2019. Doug Teague is walking his dog, Crazy Daisy, in the woods near his home when he has an encounter worth recording.
Looks like it's looking over top of that stuff. Look at it. He's moving. He's moving, he's moving, he's moving. Daisy, come here. Daisy, come here.
The object was very black with a pretty silver sheen to it.
Doug, a Bigfoot enthusiast, says the creature resembled an 8-foot gorilla.
What is it? What is it? What is it?
Good question. The video is inconclusive. Let's get a closer look. It's not easy to see, but we can trace the outline of something sitting there through the trees. But Doug said the creature was doing much more before he started recording.
I heard a couple knocks, just put it off as a woodpecker. Didn't think much about it. And then a rock was through that rolled down the hill. On to the right, there was loud grunts, numerous loud grunts.
Tales of large ape-like creatures lurking in the forest of western North Carolina are as common as the region's yellow poplars.
Sighting reports there go back into the 1800s and before.
In 1979, a Bigfoot-type creature known as Nobby was reported multiple times only 40 miles away from this particular location.
And Doug says he has something else, video and casts of footprints he made at the time of the encounter.
Casts are kind of my thing, so I was excited to get in deep with this.
Cliff Barrickman, who runs the North American Bigfoot Center, compares Doug's print casts with another he considers credible.
Look at this cast, look at this cast. We have the toes across the front, what looks like an instep or an arch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a divergent little toe right here, which I really like. That comes down. I think it's safe to say that's a very strong resemblance between the two.
So Doug's video is kind of vague, but the footprints look like powerful evidence, right? Well, not so fast. There's a storied history of hoaxers who've made Bigfoot prints just to toy with the believers. So let's take the video to our experts, starting with anthropologist Kathy Strain.
So this is one of the casts that he has, and it is extremely believable. The toes are all fairly even at the top.
Strain says Doug's cast fit the profile of a giant hominid that might live in the woods.
Those are clearly footprints. They clearly look to be 15 or so inches long. I can see the toes clearly. I can see the heel clearly. I think they're beautiful evidence that what he experienced that day was real.
But when we take the prints to wildlife biologist Lucy Eckersley, she's less interested in their size than the distance between them.
They're actually up to 6 feet apart. And when you think about that in comparison to the size of the animal that creates them, the animal would have to be around 15 foot tall to have a gait that long.
Eckersley says you can't tell the size of the creature in the video, so maybe it is that big. But she pointed out something curious. Listen, there's something we're not hearing.
If this was a Bigfoot, I would actually expect the dog who is with Doug to be really, really anxious. Dogs have an extraordinary sense of smell. So if this was something brand new, maybe something like a Sasquatch that had a totally different smell to a human, the dog would probably not be keeping quiet.
So if it's not a Bigfoot, what is it? Could it be a bear? Maybe. But remember, Doug said it threw rocks. Bears don't do that.
They can grasp things between their paws, but they can't necessarily throw them.
Eckersley proposes another theory.
From what I can see, the animal is hunched over and appears to have fur covering its entire body. So it could be something like a silverback gorilla that sits in that posture.
But hold up. Gorillas are not known to hang out in North Carolina, which raises another possibility.
It could be a human who is wearing some kind of suit to make it appear like they are covered in fur. All things considered, I really don't know what this animal is.
I agree. The footprints and casts are fascinating, but not conclusive. And the video is a bit of a wash. We just can't see the figure clearly enough. Our best guess? Man in a suit. But we can't completely say it's not the Bigfoot Doug said it was. He's convinced. Bluff Creek, California, 1958. Hundreds of massive footprints are found in the soil by men constructing a road into a remote area of Northern California. A headline in a local paper gets national pickup, and the name Bigfoot is born. The contractor on the project was Ray Wallace, and when he died, his kids told the press that their dad was Bigfoot all along, and had used these carved wooden stompers to leave prints all over the Pacific Northwest. Case closed? Not according to believers.
The carved wooden feet alleged to be the source of those footprints simply do not match the footprint record that has been collected and studied from that region.
In fact, compare the print on the right, which Meldrum believes is a real Bigfoot print, to the known hoax on the left. Meldrum points to the identical oval-shaped toes of the fake that are not reflected in the other footprints. And while the hoaxer's credibility has been deteriorating, belief in the earliest reports of Bigfoot has been gaining strength. We're talking about the folklore of Native American tribes.
Native Americans have had the longest relationship with the creature we now call Bigfoot.
Field researcher Cliff Barrickman points to the images like this, the so-called hairy man pictographs, thought to have been created by the Californian Tule River tribe around the year 500 AD.
They say this is a depiction of a Sasquatch that they just happen to call hairy man in their particular language.
The male is literally 8.5 feet tall, and his arms are spread 6 feet wide.
Note this interesting detail. There are other animals depicted in this cave.
Centipede, deer, beaver, coyote, you name it, they're all real animals. So why would this one example show something that is fanciful and mythological when everything else there is basically a drawing of things that are still found there?
Now I want to show you something, possibly the most confounding artifact we have ever seen. This is a photo of a ceremonial mask of the Tsimshian people of British Columbia, Canada. It was collected around 1914. Take a close look at the skull, the nose, and the teeth. This sure looks like a primate of some kind. Just one problem. There are no known primates indigenous to North America.
This mask was such an accurate and naturalistic depiction of what could only be a great ape. The very prominent eyebrows with very sunken eye sockets, the nose with nostrils that are laterally directed, a broad nose. But really significant is this distance between the nose and the upper lip. So what would have been the inspiration if some form of great ape didn't exist in North America?
If this mask, believed to have been carved in the middle of the 19th century, really is a depiction of a real creature, we still have to explain how that creature got to North America. One current theory is that Bigfoot originated from some common Asian ancestor, possibly Gigantopithecus. Over the millennia, that species could have branched into other legendary hominids, like the Yeti of Asia or the Yowie of Australia, while the subspecies we call Bigfoot might have migrated to North America via the Bering Land Bridge.
The most likely scenario is that a population of giant terrestrial bipedal apes that had dispersed through southern and eastern Asia had expanded its range into North America.
But if that's true, where are the Sasquatch skeletons? We find bones of fossils of other things like dinosaurs. Why not Bigfoot? Dr. Meldrum says that fact doesn't discount Bigfoot's existence.
It seems like there's fossils everywhere, but when you consider the periods of time and the number of organisms through that period, it's a remarkably small fraction that ever are fossilized and discovered by paleontologists. We continually find fossils of species that we had no idea existed. The absence of evidence doesn't mean the evidence of absence.